Hey guys, it's Paradise, and did you know in Elden Ring there are over 9 rare weapons that have been added into the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC? Well, in this video we're going to show you what they are and the secret to getting them, as it can be hard if you don't know where to look. These weapons are rare because they aren't a guaranteed drop or have a set location like the vast majority of the rest of the weapons in Elden Ring. You have to farm specific enemies to get them to drop, and sometimes you will get lucky and receive it on your very first try, but for many people it can take hundreds of tries to get them based on your RNG. There are even weapons with drop rates as low as 1% and lower, which is exceedingly rare. It's good to know, however, there are ways to increase your drop rates, so let's tell you how to do that before you go farming and waste a bunch of your time. If you know all of this already, you can use the chapters in the video to go to the weapons, but this is useful information, so it's probably not worth skipping. The best way to increase your drop rate is to pump up your discovery stat, as this will increase the drop rate of items, meaning you can go from 1% to 2%, doubling your chances. To increase your discovery, you want to use a number of different items, like the Silver Scarab Talisman, which you can find in the hidden path to the Erdtree in the Lands Between, which will increase your discovery by plus 75. You can also use consumables like the Silver Pickled Fowlfoot that gives you a further 50 points for 3 minutes. There's a new item introduced in the DLC, which is the Silver Horn Tender, and this will increase your discovery by 60 instead of the 50 of the Silver Pickled Fowlfoot, so you might want to look at farming these too. You can get them from shadow enemies in the Ballarat area. It's good to note these consumables do not stack together, and another thing to note is that if you spec into Arcane, this will further boost your item discovery as the Arcane stat increases your discovery. You can actually see how much it does this on the respec screen. It's good to note you can respawn enemies to quickly farm them by resting or fast traveling to a site of grace. Do note fast travel will get rid of your buffs though, so you might want to watch out for that when using consumable items. So now you have all the knowledge you need to get lucky. Tell us how you get on with your drop chances, because we're interested to know just how common or rare these are, as the drop rates haven't all been released yet. First up, we have an item that we think a lot of people will have missed out on, as the enemy that drops them can be difficult to fight, and they only drop from specific types of this enemy too. This weapon is the Golem Fist. It's an infusible and Ash of War customizable fist weapon new to the DLC. The weapon requires 24 strength, 8 dexterity, 11 intelligence, and 11 faith, and scales with C in strength, E in dex, int, and faith. They come with the weapon skill Endure, which will boost your poise and give you damage reduction while using it. However, we have mentioned that you can swap this out, allowing you to apply your own affinity to the weapon, with these other affinities allowing you to achieve up to a B rank in a particular stat, as well as scaling in the different elemental types like Bleed or Heavy to dramatically increase the damage. The cool thing about this weapon is that it kind of functions like a Smith script weapon, allowing you to shoot them out. So if you want to have a Smith script style fist weapon, this is something you can use. To get this one, you need to go to Telu's Ruined Forge. Here you can find golem enemies, and you want to look for the ones that are petting the slimes and have a different color to their fist. These are the ones that seem to be able to drop this weapon. Just a quick FYI, this is one of the longest enemies to farm, as the enemy has a massive health pool, but you can get around this by going to their back, which is their weak point. The drop rate for this seems pretty low, so we're going to send you some good vibes if you hope to farm this one. And then we have the Fire Knight's Shortsword. This is actually a dagger category weapon, even though it's called a shortsword. The weapon even has a hidden boost to its stats, where basically any flame imbuement will amplify the effect of it, greatly increasing the armament's power. This does require 8 strength, 13 dex, and 12 faith. If you want to grab this, the easiest site of grace to farm this from is the first floor. Here there will be a bunch of enemies in the area to defeat, and you want to look out for the Fire Knight enemies that are carrying the daggers. These are the ones that have a chance to drop them. There's also a few other farming spots like the 7th floor grace point, but unfortunately, we don't have that unlocked just yet, so that's an alternate option for you if you want to try farming there instead. And next up, in keeping with the theme of the Shadowkeep and the Fire Knight weapons, we have the Greatsword version. This is currently one of the best weapons in the game and is being used in a lot of builds at the moment for the damage it outputs, as well as the moveset having a true combo. This is particularly powerful when paired with specific Ashes of War, and overall it's just an awesome weapon. It requires 22 strength, 18 dexterity, and 12 faith, and scales with D in strength, dexterity, and faith, and comes by default with the weapon skill Stomp, Upwards Cut. Much like the previous weapon, this one has a hidden effect that boosts its power when using flame imbuements. This one is pretty easy to locate the enemies that drop it, but it's just a very rare drop. If you have progressed to the Shadow Keep, all you need to do is head to the first floor Grace Point, turn around and head down the lift. Here you will see a Fire Knight just at the bottom of the lift, so you can repeatedly farm this guy pretty easily, but again it can take a few tries, so we'll hope you get lucky. And next is another weapon that is on top for some of the best builds, and it is the Lizard Greatsword. It may look like a bit of a meme, but this one is great for certain builds, such as the Carrion Sovereignty Intelligence build. It has a quirky feature whereby you can actually shoot a projectile from it, which if you have an affinity like cold or bleed, then it will also apply that to enemies with the projectile, which is pretty cool. The weapon itself requires 12 strength and 14 dex, and scales with D in strength and dex. Again, this one comes with the weapon skill Stomp Upwards Cut, but you can swap it out for something better. You can get this one from the imp enemies, and the best place to do that we found to farm them is in the Fog Rift Catacombs, as the first imp you come across here has a chance to drop it. Supposedly this can be dropped in other catacombs too, but we aren't able to confirm that ourselves. And next is another weapon that will come off of imps in the catacombs. This time it's the Forked Tongue Hatchet. This comes with the unique skill Dragon Form Blade, which will spew out fire from the dragon's maw, sweeping in a forward arc. The flames on the ground also continue to burn for a short time, so this is a pretty unique skill. It does also come with a passive bleed effect and requires 10 strength and 13 dexterity, and scales with D in strength and dex to wield. The best place to farm this is to head to the Scorpion River Catacombs, where you will find there are rooms filled with multiple imps. Just look for the ones with the hatchet and farm them. And the next weapon on the list has one of the coolest unique skills for a secret and hidden weapon. The Horned Warrior's Sword is a curved sword that comes with the skill Horn Cooling. The description says it invokes entangled horns to cover the weapon's blade, and then drives it into the ground, calling up a cluster of piercing horns. We just love the way it explodes out of the ground, it looks really cool. This one requires 11 strength, 14 dex, and 14 faith, with a D scaling in strength, dex, and E in faith. You can find this one in the Bellarat Tower settlement, and use the fast travel Grace Point small private altar, and just head outside, making for a very easy farm, but again it's quite a low drop chance, so will take a few tries. There's actually another Horned Warrior's weapon, and this time it's a curved greatsword, and it's the ultimate spin to win weapon. This one isn't a rare weapon, so to speak, like the others on the list, as despite the rumors online, it's actually a 100% drop chance from a specific enemy. It does, however, come very near the end of the DLC, meaning if you ran past this enemy or didn't defeat him, then you would have missed out on this one. The Horned Warrior's Greatsword comes with the awesome skill Horn Cooling Storm, which makes a whirlwind of storms around you as you swing and deal a massive AoE attack, which can then be followed up with additional swings, allowing you to mow down enemies all around. This is also a storm attack, so it can be boosted by storm bonuses with things that relate to the Divine Beast. To get this, you will need to get the Cleansing Chamber Anteroom Grace Point in Anir Ilum, and this is the closest and easiest option to get to the enemy, as it's just outside the Grace Point, down the stairs and blocking the path. Simply take this enemy out, it's a wind aspected Horned Warrior, and you will get this as a guaranteed drop. And next up is a weapon that may seem simple, but if you're into your axes, it can be a great pickup, as it actually has decent scaling and has similar functions to the Warped Axe from the base game, as it has the same moveset. It's infusible and Ashivore customizable, making it very versatile. It's the Messmer Soldier Axe, requiring 14 strength and 10 dex, with D scaling in strength and dex. You can find this one from the start of the game by going just down the hill from the starting Grace Point and heading towards the Church of Consolation. Here you will see a group of soldiers that you can take down and farm, and all of them have a chance to drop it, so hopefully you get lucky. And next up is one that actually confused us for a little bit, but is very similar to a weapon that we did a video on called the Bloodfiend's Sacred Spear, but this is actually the Bloodfiend's Fork. This is a very cool weapon and scales with bleed even when infused with other affinities like Sacred. This might be a weapon that a lot of people are actually sleeping on at the moment. The weapon requires 14 strength, 8 dexterity and 13 arcane, with a D scaling in strength and arc and E in dex. Again, it's Ashivore customizable and infusible, and comes with the weapon skill Barbaric Roar by default. You can farm this just outside the Lava Intake Ruins, which is near the castle front site of Grace, and there'll be a ton of enemies outside fighting, and you want to take down the ones that are actually wielding the fork, as they have a chance to drop it. This is also a great place to farm the Messmer Axe if you want to get both of these weapons together. If you are interested in this weapon, we've actually already made a very powerful build for it on the channel, as it procs bleed all the time when you power stance it. So tell us, did you have all of these weapons, or which ones were you missing out on? And drop a like and comment to let us know if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more Elden Ring coming your way very soon.